Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's Danny Limelight. And I need all of you to subscribe to According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all other platforms.
What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of being rejoined. We're reunioning here with the great Flobo Boyce of all things Flobo, AfterBuzz with Flobito, like all the amazing shit you do. I feel inferior.
You shouldn't. First of all, you shouldn't. And second of all, I love how you start every show with "What's up, party people?" Because I am not that. I'm more like a post up on the wall and watch the party from a distance. People, is that? Can I come to your party? Is that how that works?
Okay, I know. I'm gonna actually let you in on a little bit of a secret. So maybe it's not really that much of a secret. So the What's Good Party People is an iteration of, that very saying from the old Kevin and Bean podcast. Not podcast, but show in the morning on K-Rock. And I was highly influenced by them. Like, when I first started doing, like, Facebook Lives and periodics and whatever, like, I would do What's Good, an iteration of What's Good Party People, kind of ode to them. And then We Are Out, which is an ode to Court Bauer and MLW, like the first podcast that I'd ever heard. Yeah, so there we go. Spoiler, Easter egg.
Look at that. We're getting exclusive notes. That's great.
Yeah, we're talking about this guy and all the phenomenal stuff he does. But, hey, how's being phenomenal, Flobo?
I wouldn't say all that, man. I'm trying to get you shared on that social media. I wouldn't say all that. It's all right. I'm just the whole content thing. It's a year. Me doing this thing, it's a trip, so many shows and growing. I think 8 shows in total, and it's been nice trying to be yourself, being yourself, and getting the word out there.
Now, how many shows are you in? If you were to put, do you know the number?
So shows that I produce, or shows that has happened to appear in?
Damn,
because there is New Amsterdam Radio. I produced that. New Amsterdam Radio, Flobo Start on Netflix. What's Up, Flobo After Hours, Commander's Log, Flopito's Book Club, Draped in Gold, and I'm missing one. That's 7. And then I'm on also Everything Tournament with Evan and T Mac. I used to be on Elite of the Week with Jack Farmer, but that's gone to a solo show. And also, whenever George Hermosa has his little wrestling chatter features, those are cool too. So about 10 in total when it's all said and done.
No, how's it been? Because, you mentioned George Hermosa, you After Buzzers, right? And if you guys don't know about AfterBuzz TV, that was, a kind of conglomerate of interesting people and creative types that, Flobo, you were a part of. But as I was kind of trudging along doing like whatever MMA or pro wrestling show would hadn't kicked me out, I was watching you guys on the way home, and I'm like, one day.
Which is weird because it's like we were there going, one day we'll get out of here. One day we'll graduate. One day we'll get the hell. But no, I kid. AfterBuzz TV was one of those mixed bag. It was an organization that gave me a lot of reps, and I think it puts me ahead of a lot of hosts. And that when I approach a show, I try to work on structure, try to come up with a way that's repeatable and stuff like that. But of course, I joined to broaden my fan base. And that didn't quite happen the way I did it because I'm still kind of a nobody. So I get kind of like, but their opportunity was there. There's not many places in the world, let alone Los Angeles, that's going to give you free stage time. So take it where you can.
Damn it, you're somebody to me. And you're also somebody to Kirsten Marie. It says, hi, Adam. Hi, Flobito.
She's a real one. What up?
Like, heart to you, Kirsten. Hi, everyone also. So just saying. That's a good thing to do. No, and it's funny because all of you guys have kind of went on your own, right? You mentioned George Hermosa and his AfterBuzz, all the things that Steve Kaufman's doing, you're doing, James Lott Jr. There's so many of you guys to name, but all of you guys are doing amazing things on your own terms. I think it's amazing.
It's a cool thing to see who stuck with it and who doesn't, because it is a grind, you know. I mean, there's weeks where like I don't have anybody booked. Do people care about me? Am I gonna fall off? I got 2 guests that want to do this day, but no one's do the week after, kind of a thing, and that's kind of a grind to it. But like, you know, I think I get to be myself in different ways. You know, I approach my shows differently. Draped in Gold me is a little different than After Hours me, but it's still me. So I get to say that I'm lucky to do that. Yeah.
Now, in this year, it couldn't just be about like podcasting, right? Although that's a lot of what you've been able to amass, and it's an incredible kind of body of work that you've cemented yourself in. You have a definitive place, you know, in the world of online kind of podcasting, and yes, absolutely. So, with that being said, aside from that, what have you been into? I know a lot of people are playing like the stock market and the cryptocurrency. Did you get into any of that jazz?
So for the pandemic or just in general?
Okay.
In the pandemic life, I got to a little bit of crypto. Like I have the trading rules version, so you can get crypto through the Cash App or PayPal. So I have like Bitcoin Cash, a little bit of Litecoin. I just had a MetaMask this week to see if I get some Ethereum, because I have been leaning into NFTs. I had on my show New Amsterdam Radio, which I don't mean to make this a whole big plug fest, but on my show New Amsterdam Radio, one of my recent guests was in that space. She's in the NFT space, and I was like, NFTs, right? And usually NFTs, the crypto of record tends to be Ethereum, not Bitcoin. And so I was like, oh, let me learn more about this Ethereum thing. So I was in that too as well. But as far as like things I get into, I mean, I'm sure I've mentioned in some other shows, like I really got into video game casting or commentary for video games. I got to commentate my first boxing match through David Christopher, which if you haven't hung out with him before, you really should. Punk Rock is another AfterBuzz alum. Punk Rock David Christopher is so cool. You'll probably enjoy talking with you on the show, because he's an MMA guy, a boxing guy, fitness guy. So I got to do a little IRL stuff with that, get to be my little black Mauro Ronaldo. Like, there's a malfunction at that junction. You know, it was pretty good, pretty chill.
Yeah. So apparently AMC is a thing. AMC, like the movie theater, the stock of such is like sending people to the moon, apparently.
To the moon. I can't say I got super rich on it, because again, I put like a little bit of my portfolio was like $1,000. I'm not going to be super rich, but I will say I was short on my rent last month, but AMC came through in the clutch. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Bravo. Which, you know, by the way, I mean, and it's to me, I think it's kind of indicative of the last year, right? Where, you know, everybody had to kind of self-start, right? Whether it be podcasting, whether it be content creation, you know, financial advice, or, you know, podcasting in general. Like it's just been that. Like I've gone down like deep wormholes on like guys like Keenan Grace and Stockmo and whatever. And I didn't know, I knew absolutely nothing. But like March 7th, right before everything shut down here in LA, like I knew nothing of the stock market. I had a Robinhood for, at that point, maybe a year and a half prior, and I had like my one free share of, I believe it was Ford, and I was just like, that's not going to go anywhere. And no, I'm sorry, no, it wasn't Ford. It was Zynga, the makers of Farmville.
Yeah, that's a deep cut. Sure.
I sold it. I don't know. I guess I was dumb and whatever. But I got into like Neo, the Chinese version of Tesla, and like weird stuff. Yeah, you know, the weirdest things come when you've got too much time on your hands and sometimes disposable income.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, that's for sure. And a podcast network like our contemporary James Lott Jr., JLJ will say, hey, look, I jumped off and did my whole network. It was a year ago this month, I think, for him. But I kind of fell into it. Like I had my What's Up Flobo, the classic one. Was this supposed to be a vlog of me talking about my day? And then I had New Amsterdam Radio going, and then one thing led to another. I was like, oh, well, this is great. I was still doing the wrong after show. How about an after show after that? Oh, I know. We'll do After Hours. That's almost hitting a year. Or even wrestling with your questions. I remember that deep cut. Jack and I had a wrestling with your questions show for 14 weeks to get questions. But then afterwards, when a hiatus, it was like no one really cares about asking us questions, and so that canceled. We did Draped in Gold. Like it was a bit of a finding out process of what I want to do, but that's basically most of my days now. I create some content. I'll check the stock market. I actually have a betterment because it's a little bit hard to get the money out. Because I had an Acorns, and every time you're like, oh man, I need that money, bro. You hit that button and get the Acorns money back. So I have a Betterment now, so it's a little bit more secure to get the money out. So I do that. But it just kind of like just is maintaining, man. There is a pre-pandemic, a pandemic, and a post-pandemic life. I think all of them were different. And now they're kind of merging like Crisis on Infinite Earths. I'm trying to figure out which ones I'm going to do, which ones I'm not going to do anymore.
No, that's facts. That's facts. Now, as you being a content creator, and again, you dabbled about your vlog and what have you. Yes, you are. You create a lot of content.
If no one watches it, though, is it really content? Let's be real.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, that is something that I toe the line with, like, almost every podcast. Like, is anything... Yeah, I almost feel like a Bruce Springsteen in Radio Nowhere. Is anybody alive out there? But I kind of don't care. Like, it's just
deep
like...
cuts, bro. I respect it.
Just put it out there. But, I mean, it seemingly all of... everybody has started a podcast or a vlog or what have you. But you have maintained a bit of artistry in it, in terms of format. Yes, absolutely. You're not going to tell me different. But, I mean, what are the, I guess, traits in terms of your acumen has arisen due to your kind of like foray into this new genre?
So I have a little bit of a leg up for two reasons. One, I'm a stand-up comedian, and a DJ, right? Wedding DJ. So you those are two professions you have to learn how to work with the crowd or see what the crowd's feeling, and being able to pivot or to adapt. And second of all is be patient with yourself, right? So most people have an idea for a podcast. So I'm gonna talk about this thing, and I tell people all the time, you have to have at least 8 episodes and do it consistently. Because then it becomes like a grind. Episodes 5 and 6, where you're like, what am I going to talk about this week? If you figure out how to push through that dry spell, then other dry spells are easier. But there's too many times where someone has a podcast where it's like, it's my random thoughts. And then, bam, right? You're nobody. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm a nobody too. But if I was famous, if it was Chris Rock having a podcast, people are coming because they hear Chris Rock. But everyone else needs some sort of structure. And of course, it can change over time. I always say the story. But After Hours was supposed to be me at night talking about the news, because no one really cared about me as a comic when I thought about the news. But then I did that. And I go, okay, cool, let's have some guests. And so I had guests on to talk about the news. And guess what? People my age don't read the news. They were so burnt out by 2020, they weren't reading anything. So I had these shows where I was like, you guys hear this? No. Oh. And so then it became like a late night talk show, comedy show. But that's all under What's Up, Flobo After Hours. You can go back and see that evolution. But more importantly is having a structure. So now it's the intro, there's the interview, and I have a game, and that's it. Simple structure, but people know what they're getting into. They go, okay, this interview is kind of whack. Get to the game. Is different than being like, oh, this is just lame. I'm out. You know what I'm saying? So I try to post things differently. And for those who watch all my different shows, I try to have different backgrounds, a different kind of timbre, or a way of speaking things. I'm doing different shows. Like, what's up, Flobo After Hours? What's up, y'all? It's way different than welcome back to Drape and Go, across the ring and across the pond. Professional wrestling at its finest. It's a whole different thing.
I like it. Now, in terms of like the production, I mean, there might have been a certain former president, not that one, the one before him, and a certain boss. I'm not talking about like a horrible boss. I'm talking about Bruce Springsteen. They had a podcast, and it was like the Renegades or whatever, but it was so buttoned up and whatever. Like, imagine if those two, over like, I guess a bottle of cognac and whatever, and we're hashing ish out. But it was just like I'm a big Bruce Springsteen fan. I tuned out 5 minutes in because I was just like, it's not wild. It's not like I wanted, not to say that I wanted like the existence of aliens to be divulged. I figured prior to like what we're finding out like in the last week or so, like those two, one of those two, either Springsteen or Obama would have kind of figured it out. And I thought that would be the portal of where to learn about aliens, but it wasn't. It was just like those dudes talking about like stuff that they could change, and they might have already changed.
Right, you're a music guy, so you can understand this. Like, look at hip hop, right? In the 70s and 80s, hip hop was kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna go about to make this bread. If you disagree with me, you a knucklehead. And then the 90s, it was super lyrical, and now rap is all super melodic, right? It changed and evolved. So, like, you look at these podcasts when you have an interview kind of segment. Even though we say interview, the public doesn't want to interview anymore. They want to feel they're part of the life of the person, the subject, right? So it's about having a conversation. Now it's on you, as I'm not telling you, I'm telling your audience. You're already doing this for years.
Yeah,
it's on to you. Yeah, I'm not telling you, but it's up to you to present a question in a way where it comes up as a conversation to elicit a relaxed response. And people go, oh, these guys are vibing. These guys are having time of their life. There's nothing worse in the world than tuning into a show and someone goes, so anyway, I was raised by wolves. And the host goes, oh, question 2. What's your favorite color? You're like, bro, he just gave you this giant, juicy meat of a storyline. Just take up on it and run with it. But yeah, I get you. I can imagine having Obama on a podcast and be bored. Like, he was the president of the United States, you know?
And it's fun, right? Because like there's different ways to kind of do this, right? To do this podcasting thing and what have you. But obviously you had your kind of experiences at AfterBuzz, and that was very like on camera, which kind of helped you along here. But were there any, when you kind of went on this kind of sojourn in this journey, knowing that you wanted to like create this kind of formatted style podcast, like were there any ones that you were kind of inspired by, and not maybe taking from them, but just stuff that you'd listen to and go like, oh, in terms of conversation? Because AfterBuzz, at least from outside looking in, it looked like a well-produced show.
It kind of was. No, it was. And I think from the AfterBuzz perspective, there's 2 things I pull from that's maybe a little different than most. And one, I mentioned it before, is structure, right? They had their format. At first they had a cold open, then the Maria Menounos thing, and then 3 main topics, a special segment, a news thing, and predictions. And a lot of times it didn't fit for the show, especially the wrestling shows, because you can't do prediction. That's fantasy booking, right? But I like the fact they drilled a structure in. So once you know the rules of a culture, you can bend it and break it. And like I said, I don't approach a show now without some form of a structure. Obviously, make it loose enough that you can grow or whatever. But the second most important thing I got from AfterBuzz is visualization. Because if you go to a studio, there's a staff there. You tell them what you're thinking about. You sit in the booth. You put the headphones on. And you go, all right, we're counting down 3, 4, 5, whatever. I can't tell you how many times when, say, Monday Night Raw, the wrestling show, ends at like 8 o'clock Pacific, and my show's at 10 o'clock Pacific. I'm like, why is my show so late? I am just tired. I don't want to do my Alan After Hours show. But at 9:30, I go, all right, Flobo, 30 minutes. The LED lights on, put the moon on, have your notes on one screen, make sure you get your coffee ready, put on your costume or shirt for that day, and that kind of puts me in the mood, which I wouldn't have got that if I had not been in an environment where you're treated like talent. So I'm almost like producing myself to push me over that line. And when I hit that theme song, and that, as cheesy as it is, you know, when you need a man, I'm like, yeah. I always clap. You see me backstage. I clap to myself. Let's do it. Welcome to What's Up, Flobo After Hours, kind of a thing, because that pushes me over the line throughout the hour of the show. So definitely visualizations and definitely structure I got from AfterBuzz. Yeah.
I really hope that you have some like B-side content. Like, I know, like, I'm assuming you're using StreamYard as well. Like, that's one thing that I don't like about the StreamYard is like, I want to hear like the banter off air, the stuff that happens before the record, because not to say it's better, but I mean in terms of like I like that wilds, like even before like podcasting and internet whatever, like the idea of like pirated radio, like some dudes in a band with a transmitter and like they're just playing whatever the fuck they want, listening to whatever the fuck and talking about whatever the fuck they want until the fuzz came and shut that shit down.
I was actually going to think about drafting that to StreamYard the other day, like, because on After Hours, I tell guests to come 10 minutes before. And that 10 minutes is really like 30 seconds of AV check, and the rest is just bullshit. Because get people comfortable, like the pre-interview, to make sure they're not going stiff, like we're now going live. Like, if there was a way to hit like an offline record before going live, like that would be the best thing ever, because there's so much good stuff that comes from there. And then we hit live, and it's like, all right, welcome back, whatever. But I'm totally with you, man. I'm with you.
No, something happens when like people realize that people might be watching, and it's just like, I don't know, it's something, it's like almost an unspoken rule or something that kind of clicks off in people's brains. I know I do it all the time, like the way that I normally speak versus like, oh, this is according to Woods and whatever. It's a little bit different. It's a different nuance.
It's cool. It's code switch. I mean, it's different for you because you actually have broadcaster lineage, right? Like my parents were just, or not just immigrants, but they were more of like seeing that herd and I had to learn that. I was a fast talker, which is why when people always say, you sound so weird when you broadcast, because if you talk to me on the phone, like my lips don't go nearly as high. It's like, whatever, man. The Mets won today. It's all good. I'm chilling, homie. You know what I'm saying? But like when I go on air, I got to be like, what are you saying, Jack Farmer? You're crazily wrong. But it's a code switch. It's the code switch of the highest order. In fact, when I'm on dates, when people see me on the show and I get like asked out on virtual dates mostly. They're like, oh, you sound so different. You're like, yeah, I'm not going to broadcast a date with you. Would you like some wine? I Postmate it after this. No, like, fuck.
I love that you use Jack Farmer as the reference.
Oh, he's always wrong. He's always wrong. And he knows it too. Like you could tag him, clip it out, let him know he's always wrong. 20 minutes, 10 seconds, clip it out.
Now, obviously, there's been, it's unfair to pick a particular, podcast that is your favorite, right? I don't want to go down that route, but
I have so many though. I have so many favorites.
So that's what I know there's moments of like an epiphany. I'm like, this right here, there might be a story, there might be a guest, and it could be somebody. That's the thing. Like most people are like, oh, if I get a big name guest, like that'll take me to the moon and shit like that. In my personal experience, there have been guests that nobody's heard of that give so like many like layers about themselves to you to kind of consume and to drop, like they literally drop it on your head and what have you, versus like a bigger name that might not have like the core base of family or whatever. They just like, oh, that person's just doing another podcast because they're who they are, right? So this year, right, as you kind of like close out the year, and you don't have to say the one, but like, have you had those epiphanies like, this is why I do what I do?
So that's a very complex question. I'm glad you asked that because I can go on and on. If I'm rambling, please stop me. So the thing about I'm jealous about you, Adam, when it comes to booking guests is that you shoot your shot. Like I don't necessarily know MMA stars, but you have MMA stars on your show all the time. I get so gun shy asking people because I get like ignored. I go, oh, no one wants to be on my show. Like when you got Janae Harding, I was like, oh, I follow her on social media. Can I do it? And I shot my shot, and she was a doll, man. One of the most coolest interviews too. And I think she appreciated it because even though she is an MMA fighter, she was on New Amsterdam radio. So I was approaching it as if she was a creative, not like it's like, oh, you reverse cyborg, right? It was more like, whoa, you started fighting. What did your family think? So that was kind of cool. And I like that. So when it comes down to the big guests, if you will, it depends on what you think success is. If you're looking at views, you're going to be disappointed because when you get a big star, you're just a cog in the wheel. They're doing you a favor. You're not going to get the promotion, and it's usually the person who has like 1,000 followers, 2,000 followers. Like, oh, I was on this podcast. Check it out. Blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Is that vodka? Are you doing vodka right now?
No, it's a Casadora's spritzer.
You are some fancy mud trucker. Think it's up. But I'll tell you this as a problem I had was that since After Hours, the Muslim Club After Hours airs live Monday nights, 10 o'clock Pacific, I was having trouble booking women. It was kind of weird because I was sliding in DMs, being like, hey, are you free Monday night at 10 p.m.? I have a show. You got to believe me. And I tried to tell people, hey, look, here's some episodes, and it never really clicked. But I had went to college with Ariana Maddox, who was on the show Vanderpump Rules. Like I went to college with her. Like we were a very small school. We knew each other. We weren't close. Well, I knew someone, and she was on my show. Did I get the views I wanted? 3,000 over 100. Huge for me, but wasn't like the 10,000 gangbusters YouTube is going to give me a partner deal over it. But having Ariana Maddox on the show gave my show air legitimacy. So when I go to people who are working, I go, hey, look, I had this reality star. Can you be on my show? It's been a lot easier to have people do on the show. So like that to me is a success. Janae Harding was a success for just being able to talk to a star who's working and actually has a fan base outside of a wrestling sphere, outside of the Rocket League sphere. So those are big ones for me, but there's always room for more, for sure.
I love that Janae Hart. I was so happy when you guys kind of like converged. I was just like, oh, okay. For me, I'm just like friends connecting and
Yeah,
doing whatever. Like
yeah,
the whole like MMA media or like wrestling media. Like I kind of don't dig it. Like I'm a podcaster interviewer. If you want to put me in that media, whatever, that's you doing that. I'm not at all. There's not a scoop. Like I think on the channel, there's only Jason Mayhem Miller, right? He used to host Bully Beatdown, where the bullies got their ass whooped by an MMA star on MTV. Well,
right.
for that, when he went to jail the last time, kind of got a tip, right, from somebody, and I was like, and they were like, "Woods, you're the guy." I was like, "Okay," and I did it. Got 500 views, but I was just didn't feel right about it. Like kind of cheering for somebody's downfall. I was like, "Oh."
Right.
Felt very what's that Jake Gyllenhaal movie, The Night Stalker or some weird shit?
I guess so.
He's a paparazzi guy.
Oh, I think so.
Nightcrawler.
I think so. Yeah, girl. I think so.
Yeah.
I think I'm into watch. I was like, what?
No, that it made me feel very Nightcrawlerish, and I was like, I never want to fucking scoop again. Nor do I want like credentials, because again, go to UFC or Bellator or what have you, and you gotta not curse. That'll be like the first hurdle, and then like literally fight like 50 other dudes and gals to get maybe 30 seconds of audio. I'm like, fuck that, man. I could just sit on my ass at home and
yeah. So you gotta teach me your ways, man, just to be fearless in DMing people. Because I get so gun shy. Like, I get left on red. I'm like, dude, my local politician who's running for the business representative I said, you want to be on my show? She goes, hey, where did I know you from? I'm like, oh, a neighborhood council meeting. She left me on red. And I'm still salty about that. Like, again, I look at you, Adam. I'm like, bro, you're doing it. You're totally killing. Even James too. You two are just getting the guests. I gotta set my game up. I want to hit the next level.
Well, there's a bit of curiosity, right? It's like I almost want to, and it's the podcast, the channel, whatever. They've gone through different phases, right? First, it was like I'm going to be this like ESPNer and whatever, and then and have that type of format and the hot take and shit like that, and then I was just like, nah, I want to know about you beyond like the Instagram post and the filtered picture and shit like that, and like, who are you? Because the fact of the matter is, and it's funny with MMA and pro wrestling, most people don't think that they relate. I relate it all the time. And it's very much that way. And one thing that I love about like pro wrestlers, you don't have to tell them to get on every social media platform and plug their royers because they've already done it. But MMA fighters, right? They might have more legitimacy to a certain audience, but guess what? They're like, oh, I just have Twitter, or I just have Instagram. Well,
right.
To me, I'm all like, fuck, you're telling people that they're almost like beneath you because they have a social media that you don't have, and you're almost forcing them to kind of contour where they are to find you at the same time where you're trying to get the promoter to pay you more money.
Right.
The fuck?
It's all about following, too.
Yeah, it's weird.
Absolutely, man. You hit the nail on the head. It is kind of about, I'm not on this social media platform, but why am I getting booked? It's like, people didn't know you exist. And I tell people that from all ages and all things. I get trying to be a private person. I really do. You don't want to put everything out there, but I'd rather you have like a crafted image on social than none at all. Are you an algorithm?
Or you could be like this person over on Twitch, because they're saying, hey, you want to become famous? By followers, prime viewers? So, you know what? Maybe Flobo, we've been doing it wrong this whole entire time. Like,
cut corners, bro. That's
Speaking of like cutting, one thing about like Joe Rogan, right? They said that he was just doing a podcast and whatever, but it wasn't until he started clipping up, portions of the show and releasing on its own deal. It's something that I've seen you do. But what is your feeling on like clipping up like portions of the podcast to, I guess, be easier to digest to people that might not want to watch the full duration?
Yeah, so it's something that I wish I could afford a certain person to do because it's inherently valuable. Even shows I love, like when we came up with Draped in Gold, that's our NXT and NXT UK. Back to what I see my structure, right? No one's covering NXT UK in the United States live. It's us. We're the only ones that do it live after theirs. But it was even Skip and Shannon Undisputed. Like there's clips they release because you don't have time to watch a 3-hour sports show. My fans, and I say that loosely because I don't really have true fans. They don't know me personally. They usually know me through the AfterBuzz. They've migrated. I'm just saying like they know this. Like they know the content we do is unique and it's different and it's fresh and it's good. But eventually you're going to have to feed the content beast on TikTok and Instagram. Present your product in a way that people can take samples of so they get an idea of who you are and what you're about. And more importantly, being able to spread yourself out more and more. It's easy to put a 1-minute clip everywhere else, even Reddit if you want to, and saying, hey guys, check out my podcast and 45 minutes. And that's like something from a guy who has a structure, you know? So it's a lot of work. It's labor intensive. When things get busy, it's the first thing to fall off is making those clips. But it's been inherently valuable. And I go back to Draped in Gold for example, because Andy Shepard, the commentator on the show, did our show in the beginning of the year, like January or February. He did it because not only we got the most views, it was because every week we would clip the show out and highlight British wrestlers who are technically WWE signed talent, but are totally ignored by their own company. And we say, like, Jack Farmer loves Eddie Dennis, whether he likes it or not, or I'm a big Ashton Smith fan. We mean that. So we clip it out and we say, guys, this is how we feel about it. Here's our show. We're not trying to attack you. We're not saying these guys don't know what they're doing. Here's the vibe. Here's the sample. And then people have to check it out and come on the show later on.
Ginny is a fucking star. Good God. I've never seen any like that fashionista, you know. I think it's been done before, but it was like Rico, right? So
yeah,
for a female to do that and one of I guess Eastern Indian descent, it just jumps out to me.
She's built from Knightsbridge, which if you've ever been out there, it's like high fashion central. Like it totally fits that, and the whole little like the poses she does. Like, all right, it's runway. I like it. But I like about NXT UK, man, it's all about hard-hitting people, and then the characters are so nuanced that I love being the one to educate people why it's not going to be in your face like American-style wrestling. It's just not going to be that way. Everyone's a bruiser, but there's a little hint of fashionista. There's a little hint of skateboarder.
So, I mean, obviously we had the recent, and, you know, WWE main roster, you know, kind of not just main roster, but they just talent that went awry, right? And Ruby Riott and Santana Garrett and a litany of others, Braun Strowman, right? Do you almost feel like the NXT UK roster just leave them be, like never get brought in?
That is a hard question to ask, man. Like I'm torn. I feel like there is a beautiful bubble about NXT UK. They're on a different country and an island. They pretty much left their own devices. The show is clear and cross as it is, but there's so much talent that deserves to be on a global stage. And I understand Peacock is a global platform, or WWE is a global platform, but nobody's watching it at 4:00 Eastern on a Thursday afternoon or Friday in the UK. Everyone who doesn't watch UK knows about Walter. Right? Everyone knows how much of a beast he is. He came over in the big matches, Worlds Collide, Survivor Series, this big hugging dude. But there's so much talent that is not so much Walter level, but can really fit in. Why not have these universe? Why not have more Worlds Collides? Why not have NXT UK packages on NXT or Raw? Like, it's not that hard, but I hope it doesn't like compromise the integrity of what UK wants to be.
I like it. Yeah. You know, when Shinsuke Nakamura came over from New Japan, you know, there was that. Yes. There you go. There were grumblings that he might have inked a deal similar to a main roster deal, but to be on NXT. And I almost feel like I want that for everybody on the NXT UK.
I do too. I'm not sure about the actual financials, but yeah, I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means more takeovers. I don't know if that means more Worlds Collide. Like, there is such an integral part to what not only the WWE system, but the NXT system. I mean, GYV is an NXT. Pete Dunne is an NXT. Jordan Devlin came and shut the house down at Vengeance Day from NXT UK. So I'm not sure what that is as far as the bump is concerned. But yeah, I do think, especially during the pandemic, that brand had to shut down for a couple months, but they came back so strong, so different, so fresh that they should have some sort of compensation for it.
No, 1,000%. So obviously, the NXT UK is a bit of your wrestling fandom, but like, who was it that you first saw that made you get interested in the wild and woolly world of professional wrestling?
NXT UK or just in wrestling at all?
In general.
So I like telling this story because it's so weird and trippy. So I'm from New York. And so my local federation was the World Wrestling Federation. So that's why I'm not much of a WCW guy, or I don't have my own regional promotion because I lived in New York. We didn't have cable. So Raw was not an option. Any of those shows, pay-per-view was not an option. So we got, on Saturdays, we got WWF Superstars. And on Sundays, WWF Wrestling Challenge. And those were just a bunch of jobber matches. Jobber matches on top of jobber matches on top of jobber matches. And so the people who won on those C and D shows were stars. So the big three for me were Razor Ramon, because I like that he was confident, right? Oozing machismo. And I like the character more because I'm a character guy first. I never liked Scott Hall, but I love Razor Ramon.
Wow.
Duke the Dumpster Drozy. Because I love this guy was so strong that he basically put his day job on hiatus every weekend to wrestle. And when my dad came to this country in the 70s, he became a big wrestling fan back when it was real. And he would go to Madison Square Garden and watch Chief Jay Strongbow. Because he was like, look, it didn't matter where you're from or how you looked, all these people got together, all skin colors got together to cheer on Strongbow. So when I came up, there was Tatanka, right? So I was a big fan. And he had his winning streak. So he didn't lose for 2 years. So every Saturday, it was like, who is going to be this week? Barry Horowitz again? Sure. You know what I mean? It was just all about that. So those are the big three: Tatanka, Razor Ramon, Duke Drozy, and I was hooked.
Did you ever get into a fight and do the Tatanka war dance?
I was the biggest kid in class. I never got into fights. I was a kind soul, but I was a house. No one really messed. They made me cry, sure, but no one ever got in a fight with me.
I might have. That's what I'm saying. It's just remember one kind of scuffle in first grade. Somebody popped me in the jaw, and I just no-sold it, which hurt like shit. Yeah, right? And then I just started prancing around, and it's cultural appropriation today, but it worked. It scared the shit out of everyone. They didn't I didn't.
That's kind of racist today. I wouldn't say cultural appropriation.
But also they didn't know of wrestling, so they didn't just oh, this dude took a shot, and I don't know. It must be from whatever deity that I guess my parents were subscribing to at the moment that kind of made me no-sell this punch, because he hit me pretty fucking hard. Then I just broke out into war dance, and it scared everyone away.
Punch at that age? You're like a beast, bro. Constant professional.
Hulk
Hogan, you.
What is it? If you can't work your gimmick, you can't work, right? Is that
true?
Yeah, I'm just saying. You mentioned about the upbringing in New York. New York versus Southern California, where you reside now. What prompted the move, and are they different?
Yes, they are different. Way different. Night and day, actually. I've been here since I was 21 years old. 22 years old. So my entire adult life has been Southern California, which is kind of weird because I still think I'm visiting here. Because the reason why I came out here is when I graduated college the first time, I wanted to work in entertainment. And so I applied to grad school, or film school, not because I thought filmmaking is the way to go, but just to give me a little bit of a cushion. I said, hey, look, it's 2007. The economy is going to improve soon. Let me take a couple of years and learn this other degree. And whoops, how'd I know, bro? So I came out here to work in editing. I was supposed to be a video editor first. And then when I graduated, couldn't get work. I got into a job at Fox, though, clipping videos for American Idol and X Factor USA. My boss had searched me on Google one day, realized I wrote books. So I did the articles for AmericanIdol.com when it was on Fox, and that kind of became a content play. But I like to go back to New York when I can. Every year, I'm Caribbean, so I try to go back end of August, beginning of September to New York. That's what the parade is. Just to get this to recharge, to get a little bit of that kind of vibe. I like LA because there's so many creatives out here. You can really have iron, sharpen iron, and say, yo, how do I find technique to get my show out there? But it's also important to go to a town as big as New York where no one gives a damn. It's like, yo, you making money though? Not really. If you're making money, then why you doing it? Oh, you're right. You're right. So it's cool to have that balance. I like to say I'm bicoastal, even though I don't have any properties in the East Coast. It's coming soon.
That is almost like every prototypical Bronx almost accent that I've ever heard, and I think it's amazing.
Yeah. Brooklyn myself, but I got you.
Okay. See, that's what I don't know. I'm not familiar with the borough and what have you, but I mean, I almost feel like the borough system of New York, it's almost like not quite, but
Yeah.
almost like LA, where you've got Bel Air, Culver City,
Yeah.
Compton, Watts. Like there's.
I mean, it kind of so this is a little bit of a history lesson, y'all. Yeah, back in the old days, New York was essentially the island of Manhattan, right? That was New York, and all the outer boroughs, Queens County, Brooklyn or Kings County, Staten Island or Richmond County, Bronx or Bronx County, were separate cities. And there was a big referendum, I think in 1895, to consolidate them into one city. This is why, even though the city of New York is this giant pan thing, technically speaking, there's like 5 different cities within that. But that said, it is so large and expansive, there's no reason to travel anywhere. Like I was in Brooklyn growing up, Brooklyn South, and I'm like, oh, Mom, I'm going to the Bronx. I'm like, for what? Like why? You know what I mean? Like that's how big it was. And so it kind of is that how LA is like an archipelago of suburbs, like in cities and suburbs, the kind of a thing, like Culver City versus like Downey is its own city, but Culver City is its own city, but it's surrounded by Los Angeles, but it's not connected by Los Angeles, kind of thing. It's the same vibe. Like I'm from Brooklyn, we're connected to Queens, but I have to cross a body of water to get to the Bronx, you know, or the Staten Island is a literal island. It costs like an arm and a leg to cross the Verrazano Bridge to get to it. You know, same town.
So, Catalina versus Staten Island.
Ooh. Well, Catalina is cool because you can have golf carts, you can drink and stuff there. But Staten Island just tends to be like where cops and teachers live. You know what I'm saying? So again, as a person of color, it's like, yo, this girl you must be pretty fine if you're going to Staten Island. Like it's built to be a fortress, really. Like it's by itself. It's between New York and Jersey. Again, like I told you, it tends to be older white people live out there, cops and teachers and stuff. And it costs so much to cross that bridge. It's like, why are you going over there? If you're not going to Six Flags Great Adventure and you don't see a girlfriend over there, why are you wasting your time? You know?
What is the biggest misconception that most people have about, I guess, New Yorkers in general? Because there is some of it. I kind of perpetuated it earlier, so my bad.
Oh, that we mean. Like I don't think it's an issue of being mean. It's just don't waste my time. Like people always say, and I think it all comes into one thing. People say, "Oh, New Yorkers are rude." It's like we're direct. If I don't like you, I'm gonna say, "Yo, I don't really like you. I only f with you like that." But yeah. I remember when I got here to LA and I had a job interview with Apple, and they said, "Oh, great, come out at the Apple store. Come out to the Apple store at 9:30. We'll orientate you." And I got there at 9:30, and the Apple store closed at 8:30. Like that would never happen in New York. They'd be like, "Yo, homie, there's no jobs for you. Beat it." You know what I'm saying? Or they say, "Oh, New Yorkers are rushing people. They're so fast." I was like, "Look, if I tell you meet me on the street corner at 1 o'clock, and I'm in a city where at winter it can go down to like minus 20 degrees, I'm not waiting till 1:15 for your ass. I'm leaving." So you got a window to make it happen. Whereas in California, I had to learn to slow it down, and it trips me out when I go back to New York. It's like, "Yo, why are you taking your time?" It's like, well, in California. And lastly, dap. In New York, we dap once. Bam. But in Cali, you do twice. I had to learn to do it once, and that was a weird thing I had to adjust to.
The thing is, I think regardless of people here in Southern California are in the I guess entertainment industry or not, it's almost like we're looking for people to go to posts. Like we do shit on delay, like a 3 to 5 second delay, just in case somebody's.
I have no idea what that is, man. Like people tell me, "Look, man, I'm gonna be 10 minutes late." And you're like, "Is it 10 minutes or is it 25?" It's like it's California, man.
That's what it is. It's what it is. Now, you mentioned it's funny because Razor Ramon, Duke the Dumpster Drosy, and who was the third one? It's Tatanka. It's Tatanka, right? Have you, especially now that you're kind of indoctrinating yourself and have for the last couple of years into pro wrestling, have you been able to meet any folks or anybody that was around in that area?
Due to a bad experience, I try not to do meet and greets with wrestlers. I had a bad experience when I was a kid. That said, as an adult, I've seen Xavier Woods and Becky Lynch at Comic-Con.
Okay.
When I was about 13, 14, I had a really bad experience with the Dudley Boys. And I said, I don't want to meet any of my heroes that way, because that totally was like an earth-shattering perception of them. And not even Devon. Devon's dope. It was Bubba Ray. Bubba Ray totally ruined it for me. So I can't say I have. But if the opportunity came up, like in the digital space, if I had an interview, I'll totally do it. I got to interview D'Lo Brown. I'm the head of a TNA pay-per-view. And if you guys don't know, D'Lo Brown's a favorite professional wrestler of all time. So that was pretty a cool thing to be part of. But as far as me waiting online, like sign my autograph and take a picture with me, I was like, I best to leave wrestlers over there. You know?
And Devon was definitely from New York, but I mean, Bubba was he Philly or?
I think Bubba was Philly. So the story goes, it doesn't exist anymore, but there used to be an indoor theme park called Funtime USA. And this is a deep cut. If you remember the episode of SmackDown where Crash Holly had the hardcore title, and he grabbed this giant slide and went all the way downstairs. Like, and that was fun. Yeah, that was a giant slide. It was a giant slide. Yeah, went down there and he had a match on the mats, right? That was Funtime USA. That was in Brooklyn. Doesn't exist anymore. It's a public storage now. But that was like where kids will go back in the day. Like you go and you get the quarters and whatever. So there was a long meet and greet. I talked about this in episode 3 After Hours, but I waited online to be the Dudley Boys, because at that time there's a triangle tag team feud between the Hardys and Edge and Christian. Dudleys were my favorite. I love the tables. 3D was great. And I waited online for about an hour and a half, and I got to like the last like checkpoint to meet them. And the guy on the line was like, "Tickets, please." I was like, "Ticket?" He goes, "No, you need a ticket. You just can't be online." I go, "Damn." So I walked all the way back to the end, and a kid saw me and he goes, "Hey man, my mom says I have to go. You can have my ticket." So I got like online with this kid's ticket. So now I was on this line about 2 hours and 10 minutes when it was all said and done. I got and I made it. And I took my mom let me go by myself. I was like 14, big deal. And I got online. It was a room. You know how it is, a cheap room, little cheap table. People were signing it. And I met Devon first. I'm like, "Devon, I'm a big fan." He goes, "Oh man, thanks, brother. I appreciate you." I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to the house show next Saturday." He goes, "Hope to see you there." He knew damn well he was going to see me, but I was like, "Cool." Slid my autograph over, and Bubba was like, no acknowledgement, no what's up. Like, you didn't know the 2 hours I put in the work to see this dude specifically, because I love Devon, but at the time, Bubba was way cooler because he was a guy saying, "Hit the tables." You know what I'm saying? Like that to me was dope. And I was like, dude, I was crushed. I was completely destroyed. I said, I learned 2 things that day. 1, fuck Bubba Ray Dudley. You know what I mean? And I hope I could tell it to his face. And 2, I said, if I'm ever famous for any reason, if I ever have a fan base, barring like a death of a family or something, I'm going to be as nice as I can to anyone, because you don't know the lengths people take to visit you or to show you love or to show you respect. And that really like messed me up. So years later, I got a job being a PA at a WWE event. And basically you go and you go out there and get like whatever they need for the show. Like, the episode I was there for is when Shayna Baszler bit Becky in the back of the head. So I had to go get blood packs and stuff, right? So I went out there, and there's one rule to tell you: do not talk to talent. And that to me, like, whatever, bro. I don't care. I'm old enough to understand that. But if there was one time I wanted to break that rule, is when I was at catering and Devon was sitting next to me, because I wanted to thank him for even pretending like I actually care. Like he actually give a shit about seeing me at the house show back when I was 14 years old. That stuff matters. You know what I'm saying? So I learned a very important lesson that day, and so I tried to avoid meeting wrestlers. My heart couldn't take something I love so much to have another experience like that shattered by, like, what if Sheamus like smacked me across the face, or what if John Morrison telling me I have bad fashion sense? I couldn't take it.
John Morrison, cool as shit. One of the Usos, the really drunky one, not fun. Not fun.
Which one are you?
Oh man, ask George Ramosa. He was there, but I ended up kind of breaking bread with the D.A. Brewer and Daryl Sharma, who are the NXT referees. Cool shit, tremendous, fucking A, man.
Daryl's now the new senior referee now. I think he's the senior.
Oh, what happened to the old senior referee?
Drake Wirtz.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, he got released, bro. Just look it up.
I almost feel like Drake and Dana Warrior might start a podcast together, which might be the most absurd fucking thing ever.
Well, talk about podcasts that don't interest me at all. Pass, brother. Pass.
Yeah, I mean, and to the effect of Bubba Ray Dudley, didn't he wear a Confederate flag for the most part in his bandana?
Yeah, for a couple of years he did. Yeah, but here's the thing about that. Like I know now, like it's an absolute non-starter. When someone wears a Confederate flag now, it's like whatever. But when I was a kid, I don't want to say it was a South and Southern pride, but when I was a kid, it was. I guess they kind of pushed a rebel narrative because Dukes of Hazzard was a show, and they had a giant Confederate flag on top of General Lee, which is weird. They named the car General Lee, or even Little John in the B.I.B.I. phase had a Confederate flag belt buckle. So it was like. It was kind of messed up and wrong, but it was kind of like, well, it's America. We got to play with it. And props to other people in this country being like, no, we don't have to accept that. You know what I'm saying? But you don't know if something's wrong if they can tell you it's all right. It's true.
Yeah, that's a perpetual kind of, I guess, a point of contention in the household, the Mr. and Mrs. Woods. Like the Dukes of Hazzard and the Little House on the Prairie. More like,
oh, absolutely. Well, put it this way: in the '90s, look at sitcoms in the '90s, and I'm totally getting off topic, but Asian characters always in martial arts. Gay characters always said, "That's bitchin', hun." Black characters are always like, "Oh, damn, hell no!" And we just said that's comedy. And I'm not saying people are getting soft now, but I'm looking at it as, dude, if we deprogrammed that part, we wouldn't want to pass that down to somebody else. Right, I know plenty of Asians who are like, bro, I boxed. You know what I mean? Yeah. I know plenty of Black people like who talk like how I talk broadcasting all the time. It doesn't matter. And the fact that this is the stereotype that people relied on, especially when you get to realize a lot of these writing rooms at the time were one color, it goes, okay, it's not cool anymore. Let's switch it up.
Yeah. A lot of that shit, you kind of. Doesn't age well. My wife showed me the 16 Candles, and I just realized, like, the Asian gentleman, I believe he was Japanese descent, but like of all of the 80s movies, like Revenge of the Nerds and what have you, he was like the most stereotypical offensive Asian ever.
I don't want to talk about it because I'm not Asian myself. But I can tell you that Asian people, especially Asian men, are like almost the most disgustingly interpreted like ethnic group or racial group on television. Like they never get the girl. They're never an object of affection. They're always a side character, best friend. They still play Breakfast at Tiffany's, and they have the nerve to be like, "Well, it's a good movie, yo, Mickey Rooney, what is an Asian guy with glasses? Are you kidding me, bro?" Like it was the whole thing is weird. I watched The Warrior's Way, and I'm like, this dude should end up with Kate Bosworth. But didn't. The medallion, he got a hand holding at the end of it. Didn't get a kiss, didn't get the girl, nothing. Are you kidding me, bro?
Yeah, that's why I go hard in the paint for my love of Kim's Convenience.
Oh, yes, season 5 is out this week.
Yeah, dude.
Okay, see you.
I'm just saying, yeah, and apparently they wrapped up, which, before we go, I mean, obviously, one of the many things that you do, you're like ambidextrous in terms of your talent. You do here, you do there, everywhere. But you're also a comedian. How did that come about?
Oh, near-death experience. I almost died one night, and I decided to try comedy if I survived. That is the short end of the story, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Can we elaborate?
Yeah. You can't near-death story.
Yeah.
12-second response. You can't do that.
I used to weigh about 375 pounds at one time in my life. And I lost a bunch of weight. Subway diet actually works. And I had the surgery to remove the skin. So I did not do the lap band or anything like none of that stuff. I did this to remove the skin surgery. And I always wanted to do comedy. I grew up on the Tonight Show, the Flip Wilson Show, Cedric the Entertainer Presents. That was always something I always wanted to do. So what I got is what they call a fleur-de-lis is a technical term. Basically, they cut. I have 2 incisions, one from here in my sternum to my pelvic bone, and the other one from hip to hip. So it's like an inverse T. And they basically fillet you. They cut you open, slice off the excess skin, and they re-sew you back. And so this was the day after Christmas, 2013. And I was on my couch recovering because you can't lay down because your entire chest has been ripped open. And my mom was there. She flew in from New York to tend to me. And my right side of my hip felt kind of weird all day. And unfortunately, the suture had opened up. So it began to like open up, and since it was tied in the inside, it was like opening up like a can of like, you know what I'm saying, like a can of tomatoes or sardines. It was like, I had a 4 inches long, about 2 inches wide of my side being absolutely open. I'm like bleeding out. And I could tell you one thing from my experience, blood is super warm and sticky. So I call my mom over. She looks at the wound. My mom's a nurse. That's why she was a nurse. And there's a certain tone that nurses and doctors have when they know you are fucked. And my mom had it. I was like, Mom, what's going on? I couldn't see anything, right? Mom, what's going on? What's going on? She goes, it opened up. Shit, what do? We call the doctor. Hey, man, this surgery did a day and a half ago. It's opened up. I'm bleeding out. What do I do? He goes, I can't do anything for you. I'm like, what do you mean you can't do anything for you? He's like, well, the incision is now no longer sterile. So you either have to go to the emergency room or do a compress. And I go, well, I can't move because this wound is so big. I'm going to bleed out wherever I am. My mom flew in from New York, and she's elderly now. She doesn't know what the hell to do. So we had all the sterile rags and gauze we had, and we packed it on the left side of my body. Now, mind you, I can't lay on my stomach because I had ab surgery. I can't lay on my back because the thing is at the side. So I'm basically on my couch on my left cheek. And I felt my life flash before my eyes. And the one thing I know about that is there's a time where you become accepting of it. It was like, well, I'm going to die tonight. And that's okay. It was scared. I'm ready. Like it was this weird, like I'm ready. And of course, your life flashes before your eyes. There's a bunch of like small regrets, like, oh man, I wish I got laid more. Oh man, I wish I got more money. You know what I mean? Oh, I wish I visited this thing. But there was 2 big regrets I had that I was thinking about while I was about to bleed out. It was, damn, I never learned how to ride a motorcycle, and 2, I never tried comedy. And I said, if I survive this night, I got to do it. And so I remember the last thing I remember was Saturday Night Live was on the TV, passed out. And the next day I woke up and it was weird. The entire wound it was being held together by this like piece of jello blood. It was like thin, but it was enough to stop the bleeding. And so we started doing wet compresses over the next couple of weeks to have that skin rebuild. So even though the surgery was December of 13, by the time June 14 rolled on, my girlfriend at the time had to give me a Groupon to do a comedy class. And I was like, well, shit, man, I've already, like I said, you only live twice. Like Ian Fleming said, you only live twice, once when you're born and once when you stare death in the face. Everything since then, since June of 2014 has all been house money. Because I knew for sure I was going to die that night. And the first time I did comedy, the next day, Robin Williams had passed away. Not saying I'm on the level as Robin Williams. I do feel there's a bit of a connection there. So people ask me why I got into comedy. It was like, it was something I always wanted to do, but I saw death. I saw the end of it. And so everything else has been a second life for me.
Oh, fuck, man. Oh, my God. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad that fucking jelly gauze fucking kept it together. I swear to God. And your mom was there. Shout out to your mom. Holy
What?
Yeah. The feeling of you stepping onto the stage for the first time after that near-death experience. Obviously, it was some time before, but explain to us the feeling, because I feel like, everybody's trying to scramble and just see what they're going to do next, because job loss, health-wise, whatever the fuck, might be in similar situations like you were in. But describe to me that first feeling and accomplishing, at the very least, what you set out to do.
It was an interesting case because if you look at the video, which you can find on YouTube, I was pacing back and forth. People were like, oh, you must be nervous the first time. And I wasn't. I just tried to emulate what a comedian did. And they always pace the stage, but my stage was like this big. So I was like, ah. But I was nervous going into it, the reciting it, the getting the 3 minutes of material, having enough jokes. And this is why I realized comedy was for me, because as nervous as I was at the Comedy Store, which you guys don't know, one of the most hollow grounds in comedy, like the Comedy Store is a big deal. When they mentioned my name, please welcome, I felt like that scene on A Man on Fire where Dakota Fanning went to the water to swim. Like I wasn't being called upon, I was being released. And I don't remember much about the actual performance anymore, but when they called my name, it was like a calming of it. Like, let's give him the whole fucking shout. And I gave him 3 minutes of the best comedic material I had. Sidebar, I don't recommend doing this. I wrote new material every time I went on stage my first year. Don't do that. But it was free because it was like, this should not have happened. The Comedy Store, the performing, the killing the audience, the class. I was supposed to be dead 8 months ago. You know what I mean? I was supposed to bleed out because I took cosmetic surgery. But I was able to do that. And that comedy opened up to emceeing, and I became a DJ after that. I became a host after that. Like, the comedy was in 2014, and my entire professional Flobito life happened after that. So yeah, it's a crazy feeling, man, for sure.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Kirsten's glad you're here too. We're glad that you're here. Now, obviously, let's get some shout outs away. I mean, not all of this would have happened just by yourself, but let's get some shout outs to people who've kind of pushed you in the direction where you could still continue to go.
Man, I want to thank my parents because they were immigrants in this country. They didn't know what the hell it was to be a filmmaker, but they said, we trust you. You know, my mom more than my dad, but they were both on my team when it comes to that stuff. When it comes to Iron Sharpen Iron, guys like yourself, when I think I'm doing a lot, I'm booking. Oh, I got 5 shows today. I look at Adam Woods. I'm like, no, Flobo, you got to put the pace, because not only he's doing multiple shows, he's getting bookings from people who actually have followings. What are you doing, Flobito? Got to give a shout out to Evan T. Mack, who really taught me how to be how I can be high energy and still be within the brand, if you will. AfterBuzz for giving me a little bit of the reps in there. A lot of people I want. My brother too, who's like, bro, I don't know how to help you out either, but just keep going, because you're doing the thing I want to do. That's follow the dreams or whatever. And hopefully I'll be able to give it back, man. I always say, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns about content, about being yourself, about entrepreneurship, I'm here for you and all that. And even James Lott Jr., another one who sharpens iron. When I had one show and I said, does it even make sense to have a network? And I see this guy has a network and it's thriving. And he's like, I wrote a song last night. When? I don't know, I was bored. What? That's something that's like, cool, man. So I know I left a lot of people out, but those are the main ones for sure. And Jack Farmer, bro, he taught me how to eat. He taught me how to be my DJ in Southern California. I got to launch my DJ business. Jack Farmer taught me how to really make that thing. So when times were hard as far as making comedy bookings, at least I had weddings to go to. And a lot of people teach you the game, and Jack did. And so when it came time to put him in AfterBuzz, I said, oh, absolutely, bro. Why not?
Fuck yeah, that's an incredible list, man. I'm thankful you're here, especially knowing how close you came to the death, because you're striving. Way better podcaster than I. Here you go, a little bit of self-disclosure. But Flobo, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you guys for doing it. And for those who want a little bit more of Flobito that they didn't get here on this podcast, where can they find you on the social media?
I'm all over the place, man. So if you guys want to book me in Southern California, you want to see more about what's happening in my life, flobito.com, FLOBITO.com. But if you want to see more about the shows I'm producing and I'm starring in, newamsterdam.com. That's KNEW Amsterdam.com. What's up, Flobo After Hours, New Amsterdam Radio, all that stuff is available under there. And look, it's my birthday month. Help a brother out, support the homie, buy a t-shirt or a mug or a mask at flobito.threadless.com. That's flobito.threadless.com.
Hell yes. Flobo, I thank you so much. I love and appreciate you to the umpteenth degree. I'm glad you're here for another year. Thank you, Adam and Flobito. You're the best. But you guys are all the best for tuning in here. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I mean, Flobo, you're subscribed to the podcast, aren't you?
I think I am, but if I'm not, make sure I fix that right now.
Damn right. So be like Flobito. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, but also subscribe to everything he's doing. But if you don't believe me or Flobo, I don't know why you wouldn't, but here's Pro Wrestler Zeta Zang to convince you.